So I'm out here in Smith Park and thought I'd take a minute to just kind of walk around and look at some of the trees here and see where they're all from. So to start with, we got this guy behind me, and I made a video on this one already, but this is the green ash. You can see some seeds here. So with the green ash, it's actually native to North America, just east of the Mississippi, and so we're up here in the northwest, so it's not native to this area, but it does okay out here. Fraxinus pennsylvanica. We see this one used here a lot. It's not my favorite tree just because it's a little bit of higher maintenance, but when trained properly and treated correctly, this tree can be very pretty and create a good shading aspects to a property. But right by that, we have the Thuja plicata, or your western red cedar, which again I made another video on that one. This tree is the tallest tree in Idaho, not this one right here, but this species of tree, measuring in at well over 100 feet. I think we're pushing 180 or something like that. The western red cedar is not a cedar at all. It's actually a well, it's a thuja. The western red cedar is naturally found in Idaho, just not this part of Idaho. So we'd see these are also western red cedars right here. You'd see these up more in northern Idaho. Here's kind of what I mentioned about that green ash. There's another one right here. You can kind of see up in that upper canopy all those dead limbs up there. But this one's actually not looking too bad. It just needs a little love. Another tree we've got over here. So this is your silver maple, Acer saccharinum. You can see we've got a big dead piece up there. This tree also needs a little bit of love. And this dead tree right here just needs to be taken out. I'm not sure what that used to be. Might have been another western red cedar. That'd be my guess, but it's been dead for a while. Acer saccharinum, your silver maple, is native to the eastern half of the US as well. So it's not really from this area naturally, but it does well out here. And then we have right here your Gleditsia triacanthos, native to the eastern half of the US. Usually a thornless variety will be planted. Sometimes if you get these that take off by seed, they will grow thorns. So it's not always going to be the case, but yeah, usually if you propagate through cuttings, you can continue to get thornless. This is definitely one of my favorite pines here. So this is your Scotch pine, and I've been corrected on it both directions. So people will say, no Hugh, it's Scots pine, and then I'll start saying that, then people will say, no Hugh, it's Scotch pine. But I have found that when you look it up in the books, half the books say Scotch, the other half say Scots. So either is correct, but if you want to be really correct, just call it Pinus sylvestris. Now, it is not native to the Americas. This guy is from Northern Europe. But the thing that I really love about this tree, it's hard to see on the camera here, but you get this really bright orange color with that bark. Let's see if you can see this one a little better. It might start raining here. But the nice thing with these trees is it doesn't take a whole lot to clean them up. You just need to take out all the dead limbs and do that every 4 to 5 years, and they will naturally just look good. Very pretty trees. But even, oh, here's one where that orange stands out a little more. There we go. And while we're over here too, so another one that I did already make a video on was your western larch over here. This is the only one I know of in the area. I'm sure there's others, but most of the other larches I've seen around here are European larches or your Russian larch. But yeah, so if you look at this one, There we go. You'll notice that on the cones, you get like this ribbon-like texture that comes out. That's very unique to the western larch. The needles are nice and soft, but that is native to Idaho as well. Of all the trees we've looked at, this is the one that's most likely to be found here in eastern Idaho, naturally. When we're talking about spruces, really the most one that you'll see out here are your Colorado, which is this first one that we are looking at right here, or your Norway spruce. I'd venture to say 95% of the time when you're looking at a spruce here in eastern Idaho, if it's in somebody's landscape, it's probably going to be one of those two, either a Norway or a Colorado spruce. And so not all Colorado spruces have that blue color. This one happens to. It's native to the west. They're in the Rockies around Colorado. It is their state tree, but you do have the original Colorado spruce. Does not have as bright of a blue tint to it. And then right here, right by it, this is your Norway spruce. One of the ways to tell the difference is the Norway spruce is going to have slightly smaller needles, but you get these main branches that come out, and then you get these dangling secondary branches. And as the name indicates, it's from northern Europe. But the another thing that's a little different between these two in the branch structure, so you get the dangling on the Norway spruce. On the Colorado, it kind of fans out and the needles are a lot more rigid. You're going to feel the poke a lot more on those ones. So Colorado spruce is going to be Picea pungens, and then the Norway spruce is going to be Picea abies. The last one I wanted to look at least in this section of the park, is this guy right here that gets a bad rep. Elaeagnus angustifolia. So this is your Russian olive, and again, as the name indicates, it's going to be from northern Europe to northwestern Asia, around there. So we're talking like southern Russia, Uzbekistan, that area. So the thing that gives this tree such a bad rep is it kind of spreads like a weed, and birds will eat the seeds and spread the seeds in their droppings, and this thing just flourishes everywhere because it's a very hardy tree. But the thing that people in particular do not like about this tree are the thorns you get on it. And let's see if we can see some here. I know they're on here. I've been poked by these things a lot. Here we go. There we go. I guess you can kind of see it there. Anyways, and these are small thorns right here. You'll get some pretty good sized ones on this. But it does get kind of a bad rep from that. And farmers in particular hate this tree. Now, here's where I say that it gets a bad rep, because it's not necessarily a bad tree. Some might call it a trash tree, but it has its places. Look, I think you got a little bird's nest inside this one right here. Or it's just trash, I don't know. But anyways, so some of the things that are overlooked on this tree is the color you get in the foliage. And here, if we stand over here on the other side, you get this. Oh, you can see it over there too. That's a better perspective of it. But you get this really kind of grayish green color that you don't really get with other trees, so it's very unique. And you don't have to worry about it growing very large either. This right here is the biggest this tree gets, and for a lot of people this is a big tree, but in comparison with everything else around here, this is very small. So they're very low maintenance. They tolerate desert-like conditions, very xeric in that sense. And yeah, you can essentially have like a forest of these planted with very minimal effort, and just upkeep the understory, you know, just prune out the dead branches, and you don't have to even really notice the thorns because you aren't touching them when they get like this. Now this is definitely the biggest one I've seen because the trunk on this thing's just massive for a Russian olive. But that's another characteristic that's very unique about it, is you get this almost peely bark. Stands out a lot in the winter. So specimen for that, for its growth habit. And you get these knots that just these wavy, this wavy shape to the trunk in combination with the knots that you have on it. It just makes for a really cool looking tree. So this tree definitely has its places. Some people would just like to eradicate it, even though it's not native to the US. I think it definitely has its place here. So yeah, I think that those are all the trees for the most part in this area. Really, we only had 3 or 4 that were actually native to the US, but only 2 of them were native to the Northwest. Well, I guess other than the Colorado spruce. But you have your Thuja plicata, that's northern Idaho. Your western larch that was over there, that one's going to be the closest that you'll find out this direction natively. Then your Colorado spruce, and that one's pretty close to here as well, I guess, being in Colorado. This right here is your Mugo Pine. You wouldn't think so by quick glance, just by the size, because usually Mugo Pines are more bushes, but this guy's pretty big. Usually for them to get this big, we're talking, you know, 40-50 years, but yeah, we'll switch it to the other side. Yeah, but this one in particular, it's definitely a Mugo. And one characteristic with the Mugo is you get 2 needles. Oh, so if we look at these, needles are coming off in pairs of 2. But yeah, this one was definitely sneaky, because usually your Mugo Pines they vary a lot in size actually, but typically they're going to be bushes. Anytime you're looking at a pine that's a bush, it's almost always going to be a Mugo. So this guy's just massive for a Mugo. Anyways, we'll go ahead and let's see what other trees we can find. I see some birches over there, but we'll take a look. The Mugo Pine, for its Latin name, is actually pretty easy. It's just backwards. You just say Pinus Mugo. And right behind that Mugo Pine, we have a Siberian Elm. So that one's just going to be Ulmus pumila, or pumila, however you want to pronounce it. Yep. And this, like your Russian olive, also gets a bad rep. But I actually like these trees. I think just like the Russian olive, it just has its place. You just have to have it in the right place. Unos honguitos. So right by the tennis courts here in Smith Park, we have the European mountain ash. And as the name indicates, once again, this is from Europe. It's not native to the Americas. But this is what people love about it, is you get these bright orange berries that they stay on for quite a bit of the year. And then in addition to that, you also get like this orange colored bark that has a little bit of a shine to it. But yep, that's your European mountain ash, and its Latin name is going to be Sorbus aucuparia. Right here by the basketball court, we have our European white birch. Some call it the weeping birch. This is Betula pendula. And this particular cultivar, with this finely toothed leaf, this is your Dale Carlica. So the full name for this one in Latin would be Betula pendula dalecarlica. And as the name indicates as well, when we look at one of the common names, European weeping birch, or European white birch, sorry, this is native to Europe. We have over here in front of me, well, you can see that European white birch behind me, but we have here in front of me a Mayday tree. So this one threw me off because it's quite a bit taller than I usually see these. And the trunk is just massive for this species of tree. The scientific name is Pinus patis. It's going to be in the same family as your cherries, your apricots, all that good stuff. But I mean, that's just a huge trunk for a chokecherry. And one of the easy ways to identify this tree as well is, you know, anytime you take a twig off, you can smell it, and it has like this very sweet smell to it. But I want to eat a whole lot of those berries. They'll kind of mess up your digestive system a little bit. So we talked before about the eastern red cedar in a different video that's not actually a cedar, and that's kind of what this guy behind me is. Yeah, you can see that's the western red cedar that's also not a cedar. But this one right here, yeah, that's your Juniperus virginiana. So it has, well, we can take a look at the foliage a little closer. If we look at this, you have these juniper berries on here, and that's what makes that tree easy to identify. So most junipers are kind of like the Mugo Pine. Most of them grow more in a bush form. This smaller spruce right here is actually your Engelmann spruce. One of the ways you can tell is, let's see if we can zoom in here. But if you look at the size, oh, you can't see it on this camera. If you were to see the size of the cones, they're a lot smaller than the ones you'll typically see on your Colorado or your Norway spruce. Right here you have all three. You have your Norway spruce, your Engelmann spruce, and your Colorado spruce. And they are all right by this playground right here. So just on the northwest side of that playground. Norway spruce, Engelmann spruce, Colorado spruce. And the scientific name for the Engelmann spruce is pretty simple. Picea for spruce, Engelmannii. So that Engelmann spruce is native to this section of Idaho. So if you go out in the hills out here into the sawtooths and you see any spruces out there, it's going to be an Engelmann. This right here is your American linden. And, oh, sorry. Yeah, so this one's actually native to the US. It's native to the eastern half of the US, and it's Tilia americana. And I've got another video coming out on this one. But, yep, you also have your Tilia cordata, your little leaf linden. That's not what this is. This is the American. The difference is the size of the leaf. The leaves are larger on this one. This particular specimen right here, the leaves are kind of in between the two, so they're not as big on this one. But the other way I can tell that this is an American is if we look at this leaf margin, you get these sharper serrations. So this is a better example of an Engelmann spruce. This is going to be more native to eastern Idaho, right up against your Teton Mountains. And one of the telltale signs that you're looking at in Engelmann spruce is the size of these cones here. So if we zoom in here on these cones, I know you don't have something to compare them with, but there we go. You can see they look a lot more rounded just because of how much smaller they are. So this birch right here almost snuck by me without being noticed, and this is not your European white birch. You'll notice it doesn't really have that weeping habit that you have on the European white or the weeping birch. So this is actually your white spire birch, or your gray birch. And so its scientific name is Betula populifolia, or Betula populifolia white spire. This one is native to the eastern half of the United States, and yeah, one of the main differences between this one and your European white birch is the European white birch has more of a willow-like habit where it weeps. This tree right here is, the leaves are a little different. It doesn't really have as much of that weeping habit. So this is actually a few days later, and I just realized that there's another tree that we forgot, and that's this crabapple. So this is Malus floribunda, and yep, one last one I forgot here. These little crab apples you get on them, they're edible, but I don't know who would eat these. I mean, some people can make things out of them with different recipes, but yeah, very pretty tree. They don't really get a whole lot taller than this, and you get these cool patterns to the bark as well. I wish people would stop carving stuff into these. This one's not so bad, but see, someone's tried to carve onto this a little bit. Anyways, another cool tree.